doesn't like a warm, delicious cookie? There are many ways to go about it. You could go to the store and buy a ready-made cookie dough, or you could learn to make them from scratch. Today, I'm going to show you that if you prepare the items you need ahead of time, follow the directions on the recipe card, and have a consistent baking process, that baking cookies from scratch is something anyone can do. Before you can mix up your cookies, you'll have to identify the items that you'll need and have them ready to go. Read over your recipe card and make sure that you have all of your ingredients ready and in the house. You don't want to start baking cookies and then not have them. And you'll also want to make sure you know what the abbreviations on a recipe card are. You'll often see the letter C, and that is for cup, and a lowercase t is for teaspoon. You should also prepare your kitchen tools. That includes things like your mixing bowls, your measuring cups and spoons, your cookie sheets. And lastly, you'll want to have a place prepared to put your cookies when they come out of the oven. So now that you have all of your things ready to go, you can begin mixing. And you should start with your wet ingredients. We're going to start with the sugars and the shortening. And the shortening is considered the fat. Some recipes have butter. This recipe calls for shortening. So we have 1 cup of brown sugar, a half a cup of sugar, and 1 cup of shortening. And I've already creamed these together. The creaming process is when you mix them together, and what this does is mixes your sugars with your fats, and they work together to introduce air into your mixture, and that aids in the leavening process, which causes your cookies to rise and be nice and soft. So then once you have those together, you're going to add your 2 eggs and your teaspoon and a half of vanilla, and mix those together real good. Okay, and once that's all nice and incorporated, then your wet mixture is done. And you can set it to the side because now we're going to work on our dry mixture. Your dry mixture is going to start with 2.5 cups of flour, and we're going to add a teaspoon of baking soda and a teaspoon of salt. And the reason that you mix your dry ingredients separately is to ensure that your dry ingredients are all mixed really well together before you add them into your wet mixture. And the reason you do that is because things like baking soda, they are the leavening agent, and that's what causes that's the main ingredient that causes your cookies to be nice and soft and causes them to rise. And if you just throw them into your wet mixture, what's going to happen is the chemical reaction will begin early, and all of those nice air bubbles that you got in there with the creaming mixture earlier is going to evaporate, and your baking soda is the leavening part of your baking soda is going to evaporate along with it, and you'll be left with dense, sad cookies instead of light, happy cookies. And once your dry ingredients are all mixed well together, you can start slowly adding it a little bit at a time to your wet mixture. Okay, doing this a little faster than I usually do. All right, once that's all incorporated in there, flour everywhere, then you can add your M&Ms. And you want your M&Ms, go ahead and add these in here, about 1.5 cups of M&Ms. I like mine M&Ms. And once that's all stirred in, you want it to be nice and your M&Ms to be nice and even throughout, because you want every cookie to get an M&M, right? Okay, I'm going to set this aside and go with the one I've already got mixed together. Okay, so once everything's all mixed together, you can start putting them on your cookie sheet. Here I have one started. And I like to use a scoop because then everything comes out nice and even. Some people like to do a little bit bigger cookie, and that's okay, just so all of your cookies are nice and even in size, because if they're not, then you might end up with some burnt cookies, some not so done cookies. So, and you want them in nice uniform rows because they're going to expand a little in the oven when they're baking. So you don't want them to run into each other. So I like to take a little extra M&Ms and get it put on there so that everything has a little bit of color to it. So you press those gently into the top. Okay, and when that's ready, they should look like that. And we'll put them in the oven. And set the timer for 10 minutes. And then here's the hard part. This is where you wait. And you can twiddle your thumbs and pace if you have to. I do. And once those come out of the oven, then they will look like this. And you'll have nice, pretty cookies. And I usually wait a minute before I take them off of here. Otherwise, they kind of crumble because they're really soft when they first come out. And don't eat them right away because those M&M candies are going to be super hot when they come out of the oven. So I know it's hard, but you have to wait a minute. And there you go. We've made cookies from scratch. Anyone can do it. And all you have to do is prepare what you need ahead of time, follow the recipe card, and be consistent in mixing your things together so that it's all nice and incorporated. And now you can enjoy. You can share your cookies, but you don't have to. I won't tell.